Sports on Tap's high school football coverage is on every Monday night at 7:30 p.m. Watch live on YouTube and make sure to subscribe. Sports on Tap's high school football coverage is presented by Raymond Felton State Farm.
With the auto insurance market constantly changing, call a professional that will put your needs first. Ray Felton State Farm is a team of licensed professionals that will assess your risk, explain coverage in detail, and assure you understand what would happen if you ever found yourself in a claim situation. You can visit rayfelton.com or call their office at 234-284-2996 for a free quote on your home, auto, renters, and life insurance needs.
Whether you're hosting a corporate event, wedding, conference, concert, or any other special gathering, our comprehensive range of services will exceed your expectations and elevate your event to new heights. RRT Productions. We shoot, we edit, you win. Visit our website at www.rrt-productions.com.
Hand-and-built leather goods. Leather goods built for life. Made by hand in the USA, all goods are made with veg-tanned leather. Some of the best quality around and made by a U.S. veteran. Check out their website, www.handbuiltleather.com. GV Art and Design is a creative boutique specializing in original artwork, design, and apparel. With 4 locations in Lakewood, Avon, Willoughby, and Kent, you can visit their store and check out their collections including Cleveland sports teams, Ohio colleges, and much more. Use the code ONTAP10 for 10% off your order. GV Art and Design, original and one of a kind.
And welcome everybody to Sports on Tap. This is the Sports on Tap high school football show presented by Ray Felton State Farm Insurance in beautiful Hudson, Ohio. You are not mistaken. We are here live on YouTube on a Sunday night. We are, being that the Browns do play tomorrow, we wanted to make sure we were able to get in and not so much interrupt what the majority of the city will most likely be watching is hopefully a Browns victory. But You get us a little bit. You get us 1 day sooner, and we couldn't be happier to be here. So my name is Ed Dick, alongside Technical Director Rob Troutman, EVP of Social Media Content Josh Jeffy, Dr. Hoops himself Noah Jacobson, and Professor Hype Sean Duffy. You are watching us live on our YouTube channel, Sports on Tap. Make sure you hit subscribe and get the notifications when we are about to go online. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at SOT Podcast. That's where you're going to see all the live games, all of our live recaps, schedules, stories, everything is going to be on there. Make sure you follow us on Facebook at Sports on Tap, on Threads at SOT underscore podcast, at SOT underscore podcast, as well as our website, of course, is sportsontappodcast.com. Anything that you guys want to email us, stats, pronunciations, questions, comments, sportsontap@gmail.com. We are going to be going through our normal slate of games, but for the Greater Cleveland Conference, Suburban League, Southwestern Conference, and the Greater Cleveland Conference. We will also go through our Power 10 as well. And we are also going to be joined by, I had it down here. I'm sorry. Who are being joined by today, guys? Rocco DeLorenzo from Nordonia, the undefeated Nordonia Knights, one of the few undefeated teams left in our coverage area, is going to join us tonight at 8:20. And then we'll get to the rest of the show with our Power 10, where we're going next week. And, of course, our Josh, are we going to have the results, or are we doing that tomorrow?
No, the results will be there tonight, so they will be ready to go.
Fantastic. That is our EVP of social media doing what he does best, making sure that we are up to speed in all that is social media. So without further ado, let's actually stick with Josh here. We are going to start with the Suburban League National Conference. Let's get through those recaps. Josh, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Ed. And a really good Week 5 in the Suburban National League. We're going to start off with a game between the Wadsworth Grizzlies and the Brecksville Bees. There we go. And Brecksville coming in this season, not a lot was expected of them. They're actually coming in, and they are tough out against teams. They're playing really well, and they started this game really well. Bees opening drive, quarterback Colin Siebert went 5 or 7 on the drive for 85 yards, finished with a touchdown pass to Carson Zapkar. The extra point was no good. The Bees were up early first in this game, 6-0. Even with the Grizzlies' dominant run defense, Jacob Aterovich scored on a 37-yard touchdown run, and the Bees were up 13-8 at half. And when I mean dominant Grizzly defense, and this I'll attribute this to Albert Grindle of the Medina County Gazette, the Grizzly defense only giving up 49 yards of rushing per game. So they are a dominant defense. In going back to the game in the third quarter, that defense we just mentioned took over after Jack Dinwiddie 38-yard field goal. Jacob Ernest returned a 44-yard fumble, 44 yards for a touchdown to put Wadsworth up 17-8 at the end of the third quarter. Kyle Figueroa was a big contributor in this game. He finished the scoring for the Grizzlies with a 40-yard touchdown run. He ran the ball 27 times for 172 yards and a touchdown. In the losing effort, however, Brecksville quarterback Colin Siebert was 15 of 26, 172 yards and a touchdown. Wadsworth's Will Stack was 17 of 25 for 118 yards, 17 rushes. He also had 17 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown. Now, one problem that has been plaguing Wadsworth all year has been penalties. In this game, they only had 4 penalties, which is a big thing. As the season goes forward, these next few games for them, the schedule is going to be really hard. They're going to need to be more disciplined. And with that defense and that running attack, they have all the makings of really making a solid run in the Suburban League National. With the win, Wadsworth improves to 4-1. Brecksville drops to 3-2 on the year. The Stowe Monroe Falls Bulldogs still cannot find their winning ways. They traveled to Austintown Fitch, and a game was played. 41-0 in this one. Stowe was down after the first quarter, 21-0. And this game, after the end of the third, was its final score, 41-0. So Stowe still looking for win number 1 on the season. Will not get much easier for them as they continue. Nordonia continues their dominating season thus far with a 36-0 victory over North Royalton. All Nordonia in this game. It was 14-0 after the first quarter, 28-0 at the half for Nordonia. Our scheduled guest later on here on the show, Rocco DeLorenzo, a solid 135 yards and 3 touchdowns. For North Royalton, Cody Miller, the running back, 82 yards rushing. The stat of the game, and I want to give a shout out to Tyler Aiken. Sends me the stats from Nordonia after every game. Total plays. This is interesting, fellas. Total plays. Nordonia ran 39 plays. North Royalton 53. The big difference: average yards per play for Nordonia 10.1, for North Royalton 3.6. That's the story of the game right there. Nordonia with a 36-0 shutout of North Royalton. They improved to 5-0. North Royalton drops to 1-4. And probably the best game of the week in the Suburban League National was the Hudson Explorers and the Twinsburg Tigers. Ian Ludwig returned to action in this game, and he was solid as usual. But Hudson was up 7-0. He scored on their first drive when Twinsburg's Joey Pollock hit Jaden Dye, for an 87-yard touchdown pass. The score was 7-7. Hudson would then respond with a Peyton Nair. He hit Trey Sharp from 40 yards out, and it was 14-7 at half. The score was 16-14 when Hudson recovered an errant snap by Twinsburg on the Tiger 2-yard line. Ludwig would score his second touchdown of the game to make it 23-14, but the Twinsburg Tigers would not go away in this one at all. After an interception, Pollock would score on a 40-yard touchdown run to get the score 23-21 with 4:57 left in the game. And then Hudson just took over with that solid running game. 40 seconds left in the game. Ian Ludwig would score his third and final touchdown of the game. And that final score ended 30-21. Hudson with the win. They improved to 4-1. Twinsburg dropped to 2-3 on the season. Some stats from this game: Joey Pollock was 21 of 31 for 247 yards and that rushing TD. Jaden Dye having a big game for the Tigers: 7 receptions, 194 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Ian Ludwig back for the Explorers, solid 32 attempts. The ankle feeling much better, 116 yards and 3 touchdowns. And then Trey Sharp for the Explorers added 5 receptions for 97 yards and 1 touchdown. As Sean would say, that is fit to print from the Suburban and National League. We're going to head him over to the American side of the Suburban League. Sean, take it away, bud.
Thank you, Josh. Great recap of the National Conference. We're going to start off in the American Conference with a couple of Thursday night games in which we found Aurora handling business on an early Thursday night start against Copley as they welcomed Copley into the hallowed grounds of the Aurora Field. They get a big 42-6 victory over Copley. Drubbing, in fact, would be the adjective used for that. Running back Enzo Cantania had 3 touchdowns and 95 yards rushing in only one half of play. And on the defensive side of the ball, Tommy Tartabini, again, doing my best with that name, had 11 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, a fumble recovery. Oh, and by the way, he also kicked in a rushing TD for the Greenmen as the Greenmen roll to a 42-6 victory. The Greenmen now 4-1. Copley a disappointing 0-5 on the season. My next Thursday night game saw the Cuyahoga Falls Black Tigers running in to take on Revere, and they ran into a buzzsaw. And that buzzsaw was named Zach Olegnowitz, who finished the game with 285 yards on 36 carries and 4 touchdowns. It was pretty clear from the outset what Revere's game plan was: turn around, hand it to Zach, and get out of his way, because that's exactly what happened. As Revere rolls to a 38-7 victory over the Cuyahoga Falls Black Tigers. Cuyahoga Falls falls to 2-3 on the year. Revere improves to 3-2. The CF, and again, the one big thing to take away from this game was that Cuyahoga Falls just had no answer for Zach Olegnowitz in that offensive line from Revere. Very, very impressive stat. 285 yards, a career high for Olegnowitz on the season in his career at Revere. So big ups to him. Congratulations on that. Moving over to the Friday night slate, we have the game between Highland and Talmadge. And, well, Highland hung 88 last week, and they hung 28 this week, and they got a win in both. That's all I can say at this point. Hornets quarterback Peyton Janikis, He finished the game 9 of 14 with 108 yards and a touchdown. Also kicked in 12 carries for 87 yards and a touchdown. Casey Miser had a 18 carries, 113 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Hornets wide receiver Johnny Salico, 5 catches, 85 yards, and a touchdown. And Talmadge's only touchdown came from Braden Strum, who scored on a 14-yard touchdown late in the fourth quarter as the game was well out of play. Highland is now 4-1. Talmadge is, again, 1-4. My spotlight game took me to the hallowed grounds of Barberton this week. And, a game did occur because I can personally say that it happened. I was there. I witnessed it. But unlike Kent Roosevelt, I didn't stick around too much for the second half as Barberton cruises to a 60-0 victory. This was a blowout from the beginning. Kent Roosevelt had no answer for Xavier Macon, who had 3 rushing touchdowns on the night, also had some key receptions. It was pretty clear the Barberton defense wasn't letting any sort of momentum hit for Kent Roosevelt. If you want to read more about this game, I encourage you to go to the Sports on Tap podcast website. I did a nice little write-up there, got some videos of some really good action. I want to thank, big shout-out to the Barberton Magic's athletic department. They were very excited for me to be there. And, it's always fun to go out to Barberton. Unfortunately, I wish I had a better game to watch. For Kent Roosevelt, it's they fall to 3-2, but in Barberton improves to 3-2 as well on the year. Josh and I collaborated. We discussed. We had a nice little meeting of the minds. We decided this week's Player of the Week nominee is Revere running back Zach Olignowitz. Again, 285 yards rushing, 36 carries, 4 touchdowns, and a big win over Cuyahoga Falls, 38-7. That is all I have for the breakdown of Week 5. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we see in Week 6 here in the National Division. We'll go on to that. Oh, it would have been nice if I put up the scores for the game that I was talking about. So in the National Division, Josh, what do you got going on this week in Week 6?
We got 3 conference matchups and then 1 non-conference matchup. Stowe will travel to Brecksville. Wadsworth will travel to Hudson. And Nordonia will take on the Twinsburg Tigers in Twinsburg. North Royalton will be playing Padua.
Nice. And in the Suburban Athletic Conference, American Conference, easy for me to say, Aurora travels to take on Cuyahoga Falls. Kent Roosevelt looking to bounce back from a pretty tough loss against Barberton as they travel to take on Copley. Barberton and Highland, the big matchup in the American Conference. And Talmadge traveling on to Revere, hoping to get their second win of the season. Guys, that's all we have right at this point for the Suburban League. Pretty good games overall, but a lot of domination in a lot of these games over this Week 5.
No doubt, and we were talking about this even before these games had between some of the feature games we went to. Whether some of these teams were going to be where we thought they were, and we obviously saw that Barberton at Rudy Sharkey Stadium certainly took care of business there against an up and coming Kent Roosevelt team who's had a good level of success that we haven't seen really since we've been covering them. Josh, let's briefly about the Suburban League National Conference. I'm looking at 2 games here that are really intriguing. The first one is Nordonia and Twinsburg. Twinsburg has played very tough in each of their losses, and their losses are to some very good teams. Nordonia, if you looking record-wise, they're beating opponents, haven't won a whole lot of games. Now they can't control that obviously after they beat them, but that's one game that's really intriguing to me. And obviously that 2 heavyweights of Hudson and Wadsworth. So briefly, maybe a key to each game for both of those games, if you will, Josh.
Well, you mentioned the Nordonia-Twinsburg game. Nordonia is just winning on all facets. They're just a solid overall team. They're taking care of business. Twinsburg, I think, is that same kind of team. I think even this past week, they needed a game against an opponent like a Hudson to kind of validate where they are going. And I think that momentum is going to push. That's going to be a heck of a game, I think. Now, when we're talking about Hudson-Wadsworth, you have a battle of dominant forces, and that's the Hudson running game against the Wadsworth running defense. Which one's going to break? We'll have to wait and see. That's going to be a great matchup, and then for both teams as well.
And agreed. Those two. I mean, there's gonna be a lot of computer points on the line here between Hudson and Wadsworth. And if Twinsburg can get by Nordonia, that's gonna heavily bolster their own playoff prospects. Nordonia is sitting pretty comfortably up in the upper half of Division II, Region 5. Sean, going to the American Conference here. It looks like I think you have two really good. You have Barberton and Highland is probably the best game on the slate if I had to guess. But Revere and Talmadge, I think those two teams are pretty evenly matched. And I would say probably the same for Kent Roosevelt and Copley. What's the key for the Barberton Highland game and Talmadge Revere specifically? What are you looking for in each of those games?
Well, if I look at Barberton Highland, I really do see a very similar breakdown to how Josh has Hudson and Wadsworth. The reason I say that again is because having seen,
get choked up on it.
I'm fighting back a yawn because I was up early this morning.
He was up
That's
at 10.
Neither here nor there. Yeah. But no, I mean, you look at Barberton and from what I saw last week, their defense is swarming. I mean, they don't mess around. Rush defense, pass defense, they're getting at the quarterback. They were constantly in the backfield. Interested to see how they respond to a team like Highland, who runs the ball very effectively with Casey Miser, only a sophomore. Peyton Janik is a quarterback that can not only throw the ball but can run. You got wide receivers like Salico who are available and can get open. I want to see how that secondary kind of reacts to wide receiver core like that. Talmadge and Revere, I think, are an evenly matched team. I think Revere is becoming a bit of a dark horse in this American Conference to me. I mean, obviously we have Aurora, we have Barberton, we have Highland. Those are the three, that are there. We thought maybe Kent Roosevelt could be that dark horse, but I think we're surprisingly seeing Revere in that, in that role. And again, when you have a running back, as we mentioned, with Oleg Nowitz, it's a hard thing to do. Obviously, what their game plan is. It's going to be run the ball heavy. Can you stop it? And are they able to make an adjustment off of that? Obviously, play action comes into play. Screen game can come into play. But when you're running the balls effectively, as Revere is week in and week out, it's tough for defenses, especially linebackers, to key on that because they're going to want to stop that run. You suck those linebackers in, and now all of a sudden you got a receiver that's either filling space that they evacuated, or they go over the top, and we'll see if Revere can do that. Talmadge has got a tough task coming into this week. I think they're up to it. Again, Talmadge has played some really tough games, and they've been in games. They've come out on the wrong side of it. But again, Revere is kind of hitting on all cylinders, and they're rounding into form right when they kind of need to be. I mean, they haven't played the three yet. That Revere has not played Highland. They have not played Barberton. They have not played Aurora. So you'd like to see them go into that and maybe – I'm sorry, they did. I think they did play Aurora already. But, again, they still have opportunities. And, again, this American Conference is one of those where every single week those three top teams kind of reset, and we'll see where they're at. But I'm interested to see that. Should be a great Week 6 matchup in the American Conference.
Absolutely. Great job, Josh and Sean, with the Suburban League National and American Conferences. Some tremendous games coming up on the docket for Week 6. All right, let's shift over to Rob Troutman. He's going to handle the Southwestern Conference as he normally does. Rob, take it away.
All right, thanks, Ed. And in Week 5, a lot of games, kind of like what we just saw. There were some blowouts here and games we thought would be a little bit closer. And we'll first start in Midview, where it was Avon Lake traveling to Midview in this game. And, the Shoremen are coming off a nice home win versus Berea Mid-Park, and they came out firing. On the first play, it was quarterback Alex Afalter. He hit a 34-yard pass to Penn commit and wide receiver Derek McCrum. Quarterback Alex Afalter on this day, 10 of 10 for 180 yards and 3 touchdowns. The Shoremen, they really spread the ball out here. They were up 34-0 here in the second quarter. And really, you could tell from the get-go that the Shoremen weren't messing around with that first play. They wanted to get out and start with some confidence as touchdowns by Joey Bova and Derek McCrum. Midview, they did score late in this game, but not enough. As a solid win for the Shoremen as they dominate 48-7. They now improve to 4-1. Their only loss coming to at the hands of Chardon, and Midview falls to 2-3. So again, a 48-7 Avon Lake win. Olmsted Falls taking on Elyria. And Olmsted Falls, they were actually held scoreless in the first quarter of this game. Olmsted Falls, though, they intercepted and set up a 72-yard pass that set up their second score. The Bulldogs in this game led 14-0. The Pioneers' defense, though, again, they were keeping them close in this game. In the second half, though, the Bulldogs, they would score first as the SWC Ray Felton Player of the Week nominee in the Southwestern Conference, sophomore running back Owen Singleton. He scored from 1 yard out. This was one of 4 touchdowns on the night for Olmsted Falls and Owen Singleton. As after that possession, Olmsted Falls, they scored on every possession after that and really ran away with it. But there was one bright spot for Elyria. They found running back Kevin Jordan. This kid can play. 20 carries for 111 yards. And that was in the first half. He finished with 37 carries for 215 yards and a touchdown. But it was the Bulldogs winning in this one, 41-7. They improved to 4-1 as they bounced back after that North Ridgeville loss. Elyria now 0-5 on the season. Owen Singleton, though, 4 touchdowns on the night, 17 carries, 172 yards. And the sophomore, when he had playing time, he literally ran with it here in this game. We'll move on to Berea Mid-Park and Amherst. Berea Mid-Park not happy about their loss at Avon Lake. Their offense was clicking on all cylinders in this one. The Titans led 7-0 after one quarter with quarterback Danny Bowser, the third 4-yard touchdown pass to BG commit wide receiver Austin Clay. They put a 25 spot on the board in the second quarter, did the Titans of Berea Mid-Park. Bowser and wide receiver Devin Zahersky had a touchdown pass and catch. Zahersky would score twice in this game. Berea Mid-Park, they had 4 rushing touchdowns and 3 through the air. Give credit to the Titans' defense, too. They forced Amherst into 4 turnovers into this game. The Titans win big, 53-0. They went on the road to Amherst. A tough place to play, usually not for Berea Mid-Park. They improved to 2-3 as Amherst falls to 3-2. Again, Berea Mid-Park 53, Amherst nothing. Our featured game in the Southwestern Conference, I was able to travel 2 teams undefeated in the Southwestern Conference, and right at the top, Avon against North Ridgeville. And they traveled to North Ridgeville. It was jam-packed. You had Fox 8. It was their game of the week. A lot of media coverage in this one. But Avon, they would strike first, though, on a beautiful pass. It was Nolan Good, the quarterback for Avon, connecting with one of his favorite targets, wide receiver Cole Kepner. After one quarter, it was only 7-0. And the Rangers, the one big thing here, give credit to the Rangers' defense and special teams. They forced Avon into 3 turnovers, and one being a block punt recovered by Xavier Compton in the end zone. And the Rangers and Eagles were tied at 7 in the second quarter. And, this game went on. It was a couple punts and went late into the second quarter. And finally, Avon broke through a 7-7 game with quarterback Nolan Good hitting wide receiver Matt Maxey. And then they went up 14-7 to the Eagles. And Matt Maxey was a pretty big contributor in this game. Wide receiver you don't hear too much about, but he had a big game against the Rangers. And Nolan Good then would score on a 2-yard touchdown plunge into the end zone. This was with 55 seconds left until half. And that was really a big score because Avon in this game, you could tell they were wearing the Rangers down. It was 21-7 at halftime. And in the third quarter, the Eagles, they were done messing around in this one. Running back Jacorian Caffey would score, and Avon really set the tone. And at that point, it was 28-7. Give credit to North Ridgeville, though. They really hung around, but the offensive line and the depth of Avon was really starting to show in this game. North Ridgeville much improved, as Coach Elder said in his post-game when he met with the media, that this North Ridgeville team, if you really take them lightly, they're going to make you pay. And that's what they did with Avon early on, forcing those turnovers. Nolan Good was a little bit shaken, had a few picks, and they had a fumble actually on a few punts that North Ridgeville just couldn't capitalize on. And if they could capitalize on those, it would have been a different ball game. But the defense of North Ridgeville was on the field for a lot of the game because Avon had good drives. The Rangers offense, they couldn't establish anything too much, and Avon cruised to a 38-7 win. They stay undefeated at 5-0. The Rangers now at 4-1 in conference. Nothing to hold their heads about, though. They hung tough in most of that game. The SWC Ray Felton State Farm Player of the Week nominee is Olmsted Falls running back Owen Singleton. He ran for 172 yards on 17 carries and 4 touchdowns. And again, only a sophomore, so a bright future for him in that Bulldogs program. So that's week 5 in the Southwestern Conference. Those are your final scores. And like I said, not too many close games in the Southwestern Conference, Ed. I think we talked about this. We're going to start seeing some of the bigger teams maybe step up. I was interested to see how North Ridgeville did. They really stepped up in the first half. I thought they held their own. It was just a little too much in that second half, and you kind of saw it for some of the other games with Amherst. Illyria's struggling a little bit right now. They have a new head coach, so they're trying to get on the winning ways there. But Midview also, had a tough loss this week. And in the Southwestern Conference, Week 6, it's Amherst and Avon Lake. Olmsted Falls at Avon, that should be a good game. Midview, Berea, Mid-Park, North Ridgeville travels to Elyria.
Hey, Rob, great job on coverage here, especially with the the Avon and North Ridgeville game. That was a game that we all had. I think a lot of obviously it was a Fox 8 game. A lot of people had that game circled. And for all intents and purposes, North Ridgeville acquitted themselves pretty well against a great program in Avon. North Ridgeville is a good team this year. They went up against a great program in Avon. And you can see the differences there. Avon using their depth and using their size and probably just the sheer numbers to wear down. If you're looking at the spectrum, I'm thinking Avon is probably on the higher end of the Division II spectrum, and North Ridgeville maybe in the middle, but we all, from talking with Coach Elder, that team just runs very, very deep. And it seemed that they just, as they mentioned and as you mentioned, they just wore North Ridgeville down. And there's no shame in that for North Ridgeville. We'll see what they can do. I think they have a very winnable game against Elyria here. But North Ridgeville set themselves up pretty well. I mean, Olmsted Falls is going to get them a lot of points this year, Rob.
Oh, yeah. There's no doubt. North Ridgeville, you could tell they're a different team, and Coach Elder said that. This is a team that, he thought in the first half you could really see his team thought they'd just come out and just get the win. And he said, we didn't play hard. We weren't crisp on offense. Defensively, they were playing well. But offensively, the defense of North Ridgeville, their front is tough. They weren't getting pushed back on the offensive line like they thought, and eventually they did. Avon started getting their running game going, but North Ridgeville, they're going to have a really good season, I feel like. They're a team that plays hard. Even when they were down big, they were playing hard in this game. Their defense really made Nolan Good scramble around and try to make plays. And Nolan Good, with him and Cole Kepner, a nice deep pass over the middle. Nolan Good throws a great ball. He actually just got an offer from Kent State, I saw recently. So Nolan Good's going to start getting on radars. He throws a really good ball. He's quick. He has good pocket awareness. And North Ridgeville made him earn it. But give credit to Avon. Their depth is impressive, and they have athletes all over the field.
No doubt. And as we're starting to see things kind of shake out a little bit here. It's from North Ridgeville's perspective. They still got games against Berea, Mid-Park, and Avon Lake. Not to mention the other teams, obviously. But we'll really see where they're at after they play those two teams, in my opinion. Avon Lake being the traditional upper third of that conference, and Berea, Mid-Park, we know the capabilities that Coach Unick's team has. So looking forward to certainly seeing how North Ridgeville fares against them after their game here against Elyria. Rob, great job on the Southwestern Conference as always. Let's shift over to the Greater Cleveland Conference. Got way too excited for that. Let's get with Dr. Hoops, Noah Jacobson, to handle things for the Greater Cleveland Conference. Take it away.
Well, thank you, Ed. And it's been a pretty great week in the Greater Cleveland Conference for Week 5. We'll start off with Shaker Heights. They were taking on their old Lake Erie League foe, the Maple Heights Mustangs. And guys, Shaker Heights proving themselves at 4-0. And guys, this was a no-brainer for them. They went on to win 42-8. Quarterback Abdullah Ahmad finished the game. He was 7 of 15 for 119 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also had a rushing touchdown in this game. Running back Cornell Beeler had 14 carries for 114 yards and a touchdown. Degamo Richards, again, if I'm wrong, I hope my pronunciation will be better. He had a 68-yard punt return touchdown for the Red Raiders. Jackson Ward also had a 59-yard touchdown. Shaker Heights goes to 5-0 for the first time since 2000. Those Red Raiders, they're a team to watch in the Greater Cleveland Conference. And then moving forward to our next game, the Solon Comets. They were taking on the Mayfield Wildcats. And guys, this was a pretty close game between a non-conference opponent for Solon. Quarterback Luke Cormuth had 2 touchdowns in this game. One was to Harlan Berman, one was to Luke Cormuth. But at the end of the game, Mayfield had a chance on a game-winning field goal, and then it was wide left. So Solon would get their first win of the season. They would go on to win 14-13 as they win their first game of the year, and they go to 1-4. And then moving forward to our next game, the Strongsville Mustangs, they were taking on the Euclid Panthers. Quarterback Harsh Bartel, my player of the week nominee last week in the Greater Cleveland Conference, he had 2 touchdowns. 2 of those were to Logan Brown. And then Strongsville running back Xavier Belvin had 36 carries for 174 yards and a touchdown. Euclid running back Marquise Hall had 91 yards and a touchdown. Strongsville, they have been playing pretty hot lately in a Greater Cleveland Conference as they went on to win 23-6. Strongsville goes to 3-2. Euclid goes to 1-4. And then moving forward to our next game, we got the Cleveland Heights Tigers against the big powerhouse in the Menor Cardinals. And guys, this was a pretty interesting game in the market. Quarterback Omar Lake started the game with a 35-yard touchdown run that would give him 6-0, but 2 field goals by Menor's kicker Dylan Tackett would make it 6-6 through the next 3 quarters, and then this game would go into overtime. Starting off with the drive, Menor would get the ball to start overtime. Quarterback Ben Pierce, on the very first play of the game, he found Justin Hodge for a touchdown for 20 yards. But Cleveland Heights, they were facing 4th down, and then Marquise Davis got the first down, and then quarterback. And then John Gordon Jr. scored a touchdown in overtime. But Coach Max Stevens, he didn't want to go for the tie, guys. He wanted to go for the 2 points. Quarterback Amar Lakes found Amir Atkins for the 2-point conversion, and the Cleveland Heights Tigers would beat the Menor Cardinals for the first time since 1980. That is an unbelievable way to finish the game for Cleveland Heights as they would go on to win 14-13. Cleveland Heights goes to 4-1. Menor goes to 2-3. And then last but not least, the Medina Bees were taking on the Brunswick Blue Devils. This was a no-brainer for the Medina Bees. My GCC Player of the Week nominee, quarterback Danny Steyer, would finish the game with 17-20 for 266 yards and 4 touchdowns. He also had 11 carries for 98 yards and 2 touchdowns. Wide receiver Austin Knowles had 4 catches for 79 yards and 2 touchdowns. Wide receiver Jack Wojak had 8 catches for 102 yards and 2 touchdowns. Brunswick's quarterback Ethan Rock Sandage was 11-16 for 81 yards and a touchdown. He also had 10 carries for 28 yards. Wide receiver Hayden Swarm had 5 catches for 76 yards and a touchdown. Wide receiver Cooper Neal had 6 catches for 70 yards and a touchdown. But guys, Medina would go on to win this game 56-14. Medina improves to 3-2. Brunswick moves to 0-5. And then moving forward with their Greater Cleveland Conference Week 6 schedule, Shaker Heights will be taking on Brunswick. Strongsville will be taking on Cleveland Heights. That should be a very interesting matchup. Euclid will be taking on Medina, and then Menor will be taking on Solon. And that is my Greater Cleveland Conference Week 5 recap and the schedule for Week 6.
Oh, no, I got hit by the mute button. Not a good effort on my part. Noah, great job in the Greater Cleveland Conference. The Cleveland Heights in Menor game. Coach Stevens had in various news articles had said that he was planning going for the win, really, no matter what. A very, very gutsy decision, but he wanted to give it a shot on his terms with his team with his offense on the field. It was a very, very good call, obviously, because it worked. But Cleveland Heights right now kind of has a leg up right now in the Greater Cleveland Conference. If you're talking about the triumvirate of Cleveland Heights, Menor, and Medina. Now, mind you, Medina still has to go to Cleveland Heights, so that could shake out to a 3-way tie between those teams. But lurking is Shaker Heights, and they don't have a gimme when they come to Brunswick next week.
Yeah, and I feel like that Strongsville-Cleveland Heights game, that might be a very interesting game. With the way Strongsville has played under quarterback Harsh Bartell taking over for Nolan Beard, who had that injury, it felt like the passing game has played really well for Strongsville and that running game with Xavier Belvin. And this is a very big game for Strongsville, and they need to have it in order to stay atop in the Greater Cleveland Conference. Guys, Cleveland Heights, Shaker Heights, and Strongsville. Those are the top 3 teams in the Greater Cleveland Conference battling for that top spot. And if Cleveland Heights, not much of a hole for Marquise Davis last week, but if they continue to give him the ball, I feel like Cleveland Heights will be the better game plan against Strongsville.
And just one more thing. Talking about the Shaker Heights and Brunswick game. Brunswick greeted Cleveland Heights pretty rudely and almost beat them. Now, Shaker Heights comes back to the conference, so Brunswick has some familiarity with them from their previous time in the conference. What do you think Brunswick needs to do to be able to get their first win of the year and spoil the perfect season of Shaker Heights?
Well, I feel like Brunswick, the way they played against Marquise Davis when I covered that game in week 4, I feel like their defense was dominating in the first half, but they kind of a little bit stumbled in the second half, but I felt like they had the better game plan against Marquise Davis. And if they continue to have that perfect game plan against a big-time running back like Cornell Beard, I feel like Brunswick's defense will be better than they've ever done, even though their record hasn't been the same. But I feel like if they have a good game plan against Cornell Beard, they might have a chance to win the game.
Excellent. So some really good games on the Greater Cleveland Conference slate, and they are all conference games, which is going to be it's going to be one of the few weeks where that happens. And this is the last year again that they're going to have a full 8-team slate with Solon moving to the Suburban League National Conference next year. So great job on that, Noah. And let's move over to the Great Lakes Conference, where I'll get it kicked underway here. The game of the week was Buckeye versus Westlake. We'll take care of that here in a little bit. Let's start first with Bay Village taking on Normandy. This game was played on Thursday night at Byers Field. For Bay Village, Bay's Charlie Rogers had a couple touchdowns. Michael Farrell hit Jay Snap on touchdown passes of 55 and 42 yards. Farrell passed for 159 yards total, 105 of which went to Knapp. Brendan Smellman also rushed for 92 yards and a touchdown. He also had 2 picks on defense. James Cox and Rocco Irritario both had a half sack on defense for Bay. But it was a total team effort, though. Normandy quarterback Elijah Gray was a one-man show. He passed for 240 yards and a touchdown. He also ran for 122 yards and 2 touchdowns. Unfortunately, his efforts were not enough. Bay escapes with a 42-28 victory over Normandy. With the win, Bay improves to 4-1. Normandy is still looking for their first win at 0-4. Let's move over to Rocky River taking on Valley Forge. This game is played on Friday night. Julian Patty had a game. He completed 20 of 27 passes for 331 yards and 7 touchdowns. Julian, I promise you will be the player of the week at some point this year. I will make sure this happens. Fantastic game. He hit Ronan McDougal for a 37-yard touchdown. Ryan Ricchetti had a 6-yard touchdown reception, and Aiden Lepore had a 40-yard touchdown reception. The Pirates led 38-14 at the half. They put it away in the third quarter. Running back Nick DeSalvo, he had 9 rushes for 103 yards and a touchdown. He also caught 3 passes for 26 yards. Orgrave, Ryan Ricchetti, and Andrew Lang both caught all three of them caught 2 touchdowns, and McDougal caught the other one. For Valley Forge, it was Nicholas Mankins and Danny Kewell. Both scored rushing touchdowns for Valley Forge. Kewell rushed 7 times for 51 yards and a touchdown, and Daniel Scheffler led the team with 65 yards on 9 rushes. Unfortunately for Valley Forge, not enough. Rocky River cruises to a 52-14 victory over Valley Forge. Rocky River improves to 4-1 overall. Valley Forge falls to 1-4. Let's shift over to Elyria Catholic and Lakewood. Elyria Catholic took a 14-3 lead at the half. They pulled away with a 29-point third quarter. Elyria Catholic quarterback Hector Garcia had a day. He had 12 of 19 passes for 230 yards and 3 touchdowns. He also toted the rock 8 times for 35 yards and a touchdown. Also for Elyria Catholic, Anthony D. Martinez rushed 16 times for 130 yards and a touchdown. He also had 12 tackles on defense. Mason Halliburton had 4 catches for 113 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Tony Phillips Jr. caught 2 passes for 31 yards and a touchdown. He also had 12 tackles on defense. Graydon Rollins led the team with 13 tackles for the Panthers. On the Lakewood side, quarterback Avery Holt, he was 11 of 22 passing for 107 yards and a touchdown. He also rushed 11 times for 44 yards and a touchdown. Don McCulloch led the team with 98 yards rushing on 17 carries. And Alex Simons, a former guest on our show, caught 7 passes for 84 yards and a touchdown. Elyria Catholic takes the win here, 43-21 over Lakewood. Elyria Catholic beats their second straight East Division team. They moved to 2-3 overall. Lakewood drops to 2-3. Buckeye Valley took on Fairview in a non-conference contest, and Fairview kept this one pretty close. They only trailed 28-7 at the half. Fairview quarterback Burke Lowry hit Vinny Rizzo for a 19-yard touchdown. Brandon Clark had an 18-yard touchdown as Fairview took a 20-14 lead. Buckeye Valley struck back. Lowry threw a 75-yard touchdown pass to give Fairview the lead back at 27-21, but that was the last lead the Warriors had had. Buckeye Valley scored the next 28 points. Lowry did finish with a 2-yard touchdown pass to Brandon Clark. Add it all up, Fairview again playing very tough, unable to get over the hump. They do continue to play well with only one win in their 5 games. They are 1-4. Buckeye Valley improves to 2-3. On Saturday, Holy Name took on North Olmsted. Both of these teams looking for their first victory overall. North Olmsted was cruising before the half, but William Dix stepped in front of a pass, and he took it to the house to cut the lead to 20-14. Holy Name blew it out from there. Holy Name rushed for over 200 yards in the game, led by William Dix. He had 14 carries for 83 yards and a touchdown. Quarterback Andrew Cole completed 6 of 15 passes for 103 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also rushed for a touchdown on 32 yards and 10 carries. TDs were scored by Jawan Bryant and Nick Nemeth. Jawan Bryant had a rushing and a receiving touchdown, and Colin Dockwitz had 2 carries for 51 yards. And add it all up for this one, Holy Name gets their first win. They are 1-4 overall. North Olmsted still looking for their first win. They remain winless at 0-5. All right, one of our featured games of the week saw the Buckeye Bucks take on the Westlake Demons in a battle of undefeated teams. And I believe our own Rob was there for this one. Rob?
That would be Dr.
Actually,
Hoops.
Dr. Hoops. That's all right.
I meant the Cedar Point today. My head's all messed up right now.
Oh, that's all right.
My apologies.
Again,
not a good effort on my part.
Oh, that's all right.
Hoops, Buckeye, Westlake, on that beautiful grass field that we don't see too much of anymore. Take it away for this Buckeye and Westlake recap.
Well, thank you, Ed. And it's no turf, guys. It's all grass. That's what all high school football is all about. As it was a pretty special night going down to Buckeye for the very first time, being with you guys at Sports on Tap. And it was youth night at Buckeye. It was pretty amazing. Like the kindergarten from like the 6th grade level, it's just been unbelievable. And how Buckeye has built their program from like the bottom to the top. And then for Buckeye, they are also honor Coach Dennison, who passed Mike Rivers head coach for the most wins in Medina County history. And then we'll start off. Quarterback Casey Murray found Trey Winnemeyer for the touchdown on their second drive of the game, and then they would connect again on their third drive of the game. And then Troy McCann had 17 carries for 230 yards and 2 touchdowns, who was our Great Lakes Conference Player of the Week nominee. Quarterback Casey Murray for the Bucks was 7-10 for 171 yards and 2 touchdowns. Tight end Trey Wittenmeyer had 4 catches for 96 yards and 2 touchdowns. 2 of those were from Casey Murray. Westlake quarterback Sam Boucher was 10-19 for 154 yards and a touchdown. That touchdown came from Chase Kelly, who had 2 catches at 72 yards. Running back Matt Porcelli had 10 carries for 41 yards. And guys, this was a no-brainer for the Bucks going up against the Westlake team that was undefeated, and they came in with a better game plan by winning 45-7. And it's Buckeyes' first 5-0 start since 2017.
Great job, Noah. Thanks for taking care of that game. As you mentioned, the Great Felton State Farm Insurance Player of the Week nominee for the Great Lakes Conference is Troy McCann for Buckeye. He had 17 carries, 230 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He's had a tremendous season up to this point as well. So certainly glad to be able to get him a nominee at some point in time this season as well. All right, let's move over to the Week 6, and we do finally get into conference play for the Great Lakes Conference. There will always be a non-conference game for the East Division because they only have 5 teams. So Holy Name will take on a Buckeye. Benedictine will take on Normandy, and then Lakewood will take on Valley Forge. That game will be played on Thursday night. Saturday night. That game will be played on Saturday. Going to the West Conference, West Division, Elyria Catholic travels to Bay. Rocky River goes to North Olmsted, and Fairview takes on Westlake. And when it comes to the Great Lakes Conference here, right now, I mean, just looking at the standings, I mean, Buckeye is pretty much far and away the best team in the East Conference, in the East Division. You got a logjam up there for the you have a logjam right now in the West Division between Rocky River, Bay, and Westlake. But I wouldn't sleep on Elyria Catholic. They're starting to catch the wind a little bit here. They had a very good, very tough non-conference schedule, and they're starting to catch a little bit of fire here. So we'll see if they're able to. And once conference play starts, we'll see how it shakes out because these teams are going to start playing each other. There's going to be a lot of computer points on the line in the West Division because a lot of teams already have 4 wins. So there's plenty of opportunity for these teams to get going and improve their playoff standings in their respective regions. So that's what we have for the Great Lakes Conference. Rob, I think we have a little bit of time before Rocco comes on. How about we do you have time for our sponsors here real quick?
Oh, yeah, we could put him on. I know Rocco just got in there, but I could play this real quick.
Let's get that going real quick, Rob,
All right.
And then we'll come back with our interview with Rocco DeLorenzo from Nordonia.
Sports on Tap's high school football coverage is on every Monday night at 7:30 p.m. Watch live on YouTube and make sure to subscribe. Sports on Tap's high school football coverage is presented by Raymond Felton State Farm.
Have you compared insurance rates lately? Are you satisfied with your current insurance provider? If not, look no further than Ray Felton State Farm, a proud sponsor of Sports on Tap. For a free quote, call his office at 234-284-2996 or visit him online at rayfelton.com.
RRT Productions. We shoot, we edit, you win. Visit our website at www.rrt-productions.com.
For handmade quality leather products, check out Hand and Built Leather Goods. Check out their website, www.handbuiltleather.com. GV Art and Design, original and one of a kind. Check them out on their website at www.gvartwork.com and use the code ONTAP10 to get 10% off your full order. GV Art and Design.
Signal here at some point, and that's right now. Thank you very much, Rob. Thank you very much again to our tremendous sponsors. You can't go wrong with any of them. Ray Felton State Farm Insurance, RRT Productions, GV Art and Design, and of course, hand-built leather-made goods. All right, we are joined by Nordonia's Rocco DeLorenzo. What a great game he had. He had the 14 carries, 135 yards, and 3 touchdowns in a big win Friday night over North Royalton. Rocco, thanks for joining us tonight. How you doing tonight?
Good. Thank you guys for having me on.
Thanks for joining us. What a great start to your season. 5-0 so far. A big win against a generally tough North Royalton team. It's not very often that teams get over on North Royalton that much, but talk about the game against North Royalton. What were some of the keys that you guys had against the Bears?
Well, North Royalton's always a good team, and we're in a really tough conference. Got to give props to the coaching staff for always coming up with a good game plan. And on the game, our defense, they brought a shutout. Leaders like Brendan Hermensky and Israel Petit on the defense. Those guys they've really stepped up and created turnovers. And then from an offensive standpoint, the O-line, senior leader and captain Josh Henderson, and some other senior leaders like Jack Sarkisian and Vince Saboro, Borden and Bozan. All those guys have really stepped up. And one of my own classmates, center Grant Layfeld. Those guys up front, I love them, and they really have done a great job this season, whether that be pass blocking or run blocking.
Love the shout out to the big dogs up front for blocking for you, Rocco. Again, thanks for giving us a bit of your time tonight. You know, one of the things I like to ask athletes, especially skill position athletes, is what are the things that you've been focusing on in your specific game this year, coming into the year, and even from week 1 to week 5, what have you seen or what have you been trying to focus on more? Is it more your route running? Is it more your pass blocking? Is it more, hitting the hole? What are some of the things you and your coaching staff are working on from your perspective?
Well, it starts in the running back room. Coach Sanders and the other running backs, we all have a great environment in there. We always work to help each other get better. For me, I was mostly this offseason hitting the weight room. I ran track freshman year, but I skipped it this sophomore year in order to put on some more weight. And then I also did some extra just work on the side with, patience and hitting the hole, some moves and stuff like that.
Hey, Rocco, you've, I think you've had 400 plus yard games this year. Just talk about, your growth as you came in this year, kind of adding on to what Sean talked about. But, you've been pretty steady on the offensive end for this team that I characterize you guys as a team as very well-rounded, both, all 3 phases, offense, defense, special teams, but you're really the anchor on that offense currently right now. Just talk about your preparation and how it has evolved or adapted as the season has moved on.
Yeah, like I said, I couldn't have done it without the big guys up front. Those guys are giving opportunities to me. And then our quarterback, Benjamin Chesser, he has really settled into his role. And with him as a passing threat, it also opens up more opportunities for me. Just overall, the team has a great bond and a great chemistry, and together we're able to make some plays happen.
Rocco, thank you again for taking the time and joining us tonight. It feels like your guys' defense has been dominating throughout the first 5 weeks of the season, only giving up 11 points per game. But what do you think the biggest keys to the defensive side as you guys continue to go forward?
From a defensive standpoint, those guys have been on it. Heard you guys say earlier a stat like they only allowed like 3.6 yards play. Those guys, they work hard every day in practice. One of the mottos for our team is getting one day better each day. So every practice, they always give it their all. I have nothing but props for those guys. They're doing a great job. Like I said, leaders like Hermensky and Israel Petit, both those guys are, and even Asher Wilson too. Those guys are all helping the team create turnovers and allowing more opportunities for us.
Yeah, and Rocco, it's interesting, you play on the offensive side and defensive side of the ball. So we do see that from time to time with players playing both sides. How tough is that for a player. You know, you're running the football a lot, you're getting the yardage, you're scoring the touchdowns, you get off the field, and they're like, all right, get back out there. You know, you have a breather, you get some water for the kickoff, and then you run back on the field. How tough is that? And, you know, obviously you got to be in some great shape to play both sides of the ball and run around constantly. But is that tough to do? And also to memorize the plays. I mean, you got a lot of plays to go on offense and a little less on defense, but it's got to be pretty tough to play both sides.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a little tough to play both ways, but I only go in on certain packages on defense. Those guys are really in good shape on the other side of the ball. They're in there a lot, and really it just comes down to effort at the high school level. Just you get a quick break, and then you got to be ready to go back in at any time.
Especially with sudden changes, you know, you have to flip a switch. You could be thinking about the next play on offense, and then before you know it, you have to go back on defense and get a stop there. We're talking with Rocco DeLorenzo from Nordonia. Rocco, you guys are taking on the Twinsburg Tigers this week. You guys will be traveling to Twinsburg. I know you guys are probably at the very, very beginning stages of game planning. So if anything, what do you guys know about Twinsburg? You know, outside of we know they've been playing teams very tough. They have 3 losses, but the 3 losses are some very good teams. They've been very, very competitive in those games. You know, just for you, what do you think you guys need to do to beat Twinsburg without giving anything away from a game plan perspective?
Yeah, Twinsburg is going to be a tough opponent. We've got some scout on them already because of the great work put in by the coaching staff. But yeah, our conference is we play in a really tough conference with great teams, and throughout the week, just that we continue to follow that motto: one day better until game day.
You guys played on, if I'm not mistaken, you guys played. No, some other teams played on Thursday.
Yeah, I think it was Hudson, right? Didn't Hudson and Twinsburg play last Thursday?
Yeah, that they did play on Thursday. You know, as you guys are going through the rest of your schedule, you know, as you mentioned, your conference is very, very difficult. You know, we've been covering it for quite a while too. But some of those wins that you got earlier in the season to bank on, those are really going to help you out come playoff time. I'm curious, you know, with Twinsburg coming up and Wadsworth and Hudson, you got some really, really tough opponents coming your way. And I know the goal is one day better at a time. How's your coach? You know, from you as a junior, I'm curious, how much of a leadership role do you have, if you have one, either through play or through speak or through your words, when you have a strong senior class?
Well, me personally, I'm a person who likes to lead by example. It's not so much of a vocal role for me, but whenever I'm out there, I try to encourage my guys and make sure everybody keeps their heads up.
Well, I'm sure they see your effort too. I mean, you're on both sides of the ball. You're hustling all over the place. It's been shown, obviously, with you know, what a great start you guys have had so far this year. You got a lot of great teammates and players, and I'm sure are a lot of the players that you're playing with. Did you guys play in youth football and play a long time together?
So I moved here actually in middle school, but I've been playing with a lot of those guys for ever since then, and really we just have a great bond and chemistry as a team.
And it's it shows. I mean,
yeah,
you guys had a really good year last year. Nordonia is kind of up there when we're talking about being a good program. Nordonia has been a great program with coach and the like. So we can't thank you enough for joining us, Rocco. Great, best of luck to you this week against Twinsburg, and hopefully we'll check in with you or maybe some of your teammates as the season progresses. But good luck this week.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rocco. Good luck.
Rocco.
Thank you.
That is Rocco DeLorenzo from Nordonia. The 5-0 Nordonia Knights are going to travel to Twinsburg to take on the 2-3 Twinsburg Tigers. That game will be played on Friday night. All right, let's move on to our Race Felton State Farm Insurance Player of the Week poll. I think think Rob is usually able the one.
Yeah, I can get it up
there for us. Our nominees were Zach. Oh boy.
Yeah, no. Say that 10 times.
No, that's a good one. Oleg Noah's from Revere. Troy McCann.
Great effort, fellas.
Danny Starter of Medina, and I didn't even try. That's terrible on my part. Danny Starter of Medina and Owen Singleton of Olmsted Falls. Rob and Josh, who do we got as the winners here?
Yeah, there's 719 votes on this one, over 14,600 views, and let's put it this way: the fans of Olmsted Falls really came out in bunches. 62.4%. The winner, Owen Singleton of Olmsted Falls. Following him is Danny Stoddard of Medina, Troy McCann of Buckeye, and then Zacchio of Revere. He probably doesn't like that at all, but
mailed that one in, didn't you, Rob?
I was like, do I try? I don't think I just sound ridiculous probably, but I'll work on that. But yeah, I want to thank everyone for their votes, and Owen, we'll get out. Maybe I'll drop that package off since it's not too far off. But no, we'll send it to you, and you will have a nice package this week of a $20 Chick-fil-A gift card and some goodies inside from Ray Felton State Farm and Sports on Tap.
Zachy O is fantastic. I wish I would have thought of that. Well done there. Great job again. Thank you to everyone for voting for our Ray Felton State Farm Insurance Player of the Week contest, especially on relatively short notice on that.
Really.
A lot of votes for a quick turnaround that we had there. All right, let's shift over to the Power 10, which will be in our second week here. So let's get the screen up. It's going to start right in the bubble right away. So that's the first thing you guys are going to see. It will start with so think about it. The top team on the bubble is right outside the bubble, and then it goes further down from there. All right, so on the bubble, we have North. There we go. We have North Ridgeville, Avon Lake, Olmsted Falls, and Westlake are all right on the cusp of bumping themselves into that top 10. Let's shift over to the top 10 now, and we're just going to go right through this before we kind of debate about it. Number 10 is Wadsworth at 4-1. Number 9, Shaker Heights has not lost a game yet, and for that they get rewarded. 5-0 start there for Shaker Heights. Medina is 3-2 after a big win over Brunswick. Mentor is 2-3. They are slightly over Medina due to head-to-head win right now. So we'll move on. We can talk about that here in a little bit. Buckeye is going to make the jump at number 5, being that they defeated a previously undefeated team there. Nordonia, Highland, Hudson, Cleveland Heights, and Avon all hold serve, all with victories, and all of those victories were pretty much kept them in the same spots there. So Avon, Cleveland Heights, Hudson, Highland, Nordonia are your top 5. No movement there, but the movement came in the bottom part of the of the Power 10, and also on the bubble. Buckeye makes a jump for being undefeated. Mentor and Medina stay kind of where they're at, mostly because we know who they lost to, and we know how good they are. Shaker Heights can certainly play their way over them by beating them head-to-head. Wadsworth, sneaky good at 4-1. Their only loss is to Medina at the moment. Let's shift back down the actually, it would take a while if we do that. So back to the bubble teams. Talk about them real quick. North Ridgeville, they do fall out of the top 10 from their previous spot. I think that, but that certainly comes with the caveat of being able to win their way back into that spot. We saw what they can do. We saw what happened against a top tier team. They held with them for the first half, but other teams more or less played their way up. Avon Lake and Olmsted Falls are right there. North Ridgeville does own a head-to-head over Olmsted Falls right now. Then Westlake falls out, but they're still kind of on the cusp. Again, they're going to have the chance to prove themselves against some 4-1 teams that aren't on this list. So lots of games coming up here amongst these teams. So there's going to be some volatility here with the bubble teams and also with the top 10. So let's get back to the top 10, and that is what we have. Thoughts, questions, comments?
mean, I think if we're looking at this, the big comment I have is that Menor didn't move at all, even though they lost. Um, you know, North Ridgeville dropped out of the top 10 after losing to Avon. Menor got beat by Cleveland Heights in overtime. I completely understand where we're coming from, but to have a 2-3 team above a 5-0 team, and I recognize they haven't played each other yet, or even a 5-1 team, or some of those teams that are on the bubble, it again, I know that their losses are good, but at a certain point, you gotta win. You gotta play the teams that are on your schedule and win. And Menor is a good team, but again, we have to. I would at least think that Menor should have at least been maybe 10 or on the bubble, because I could make the argument that a Shaker Heights 5-0 team at this point of the season has done what they were supposed to do when you look at their schedule. 1 through 6, I don't have a problem with. Good on Buckeye from jumping from, I think they were 8 last week to 6. Or 8 or 9. It's a pretty big jump. I think Hudson, Highland are pretty well slotted. But again, my question is, I know Menor's Menor, and they've had really tough losses, including last week. But I just think, for rewarding wins and you only have 2 on the season, it's tough for me to kind of get over that. At least have them drop down a little bit, not hold serve at a 7. Just because I think Shaker Heights, and I would even say a Medina win in how they did it, probably would outweigh that a little bit more. I would rather have seen Shaker Heights and Medina above Menor at this point, given the fact that they lost. Not saying they're not a top 10 team by any means. I just don't know if, again, losing the way they did to the number 2 team on this list is worthy of them holding at 7 for a second straight week.
Sean, I think that's fair. The main point where I was at is that Menor still holds a head-to-head over Medina, and I really don't want to move Medina down very much. So I kind of probably I pigeonhole myself on that one, to be fair. So I think Medina and Menor will end up separating themselves out a little bit more over the course of the year, over the course of the season. Medina still has some tough games coming up. They still do play Shaker Heights, and they do play Cleveland Heights. They have some tough games coming up in their own right to be able to make those jumps as well. So I think your thoughts are valid, no doubt about that.
Another question I have is we're coming into this week with a 3-10 matchup with Hudson versus Wadsworth.
Mm-hmm.
You got to wonder if Wadsworth can pull that upset, and how what kind of a jump does that take them? Because I mean, that at that point you're looking at 5-1 with some pretty impressive wins at this point, given where they're at. I don't believe they played Nordonia yet, but I mean, it's on that schedule. So, Wadsworth has an opportunity to make some hay here in the Power 10. I would say, starting this week and going forward for the next couple weeks to really make some noise if they can get on a bit of a roll. What do you think, Josh?
Sean, you read my mind. That's exactly where I was going to go. Look out for Wadsworth. These next couple of games for them are going to be very telling. They can either be knocked out of the rankings completely, or they can move up, in my opinion, in the top 3, depending on how things go. Another interesting team that I think is on the bubble is the Brecksville
Bees.
Really, I think they're putting together some really solid games here. They have a game against Stowe, which could give them. Granted, Stowe is winless, but a solid dominant performance can vault them as well. So looking to see more teams coming from the Suburban National that are definitely stacked with good teams this year.
No doubt. The National is it's tough. I mean, they have 3 teams, 2 teams in the top 10, 3 teams overall, or two teams in the top 5, 3 teams overall. I mean, it's going to be one of those, again, like you mentioned, that's going to be a great game. I mean, Hudson and Wadsworth, that's going to give you a lot of that could lend itself to some movement there. For sure. And Nordonia, I mean, they don't have a gimme against Twinsburg by any stretch of imagination. But the good thing is, all these teams have to play each other here, which certainly, again, lends itself to some volatility for sure.
The Southwestern Conference, 3 teams on the bubble there. Maybe they'll have a face-off there as they look to jump back in. We'll see. I'm interested to see how some of these teams, like a North Ridgeville, after a tough loss to Avon, that you could tell they were really excited about how they bounce back, with some of their upcoming games. And I think, their attitude, talking to Coach Morgan, he's really excited about this team. And he even said, he's like, I feel like we're a little bit ahead of where we should be, and we're playing a lot more consistent than he thought, because they have a pretty young team. A lot of sophomores and juniors on this team, mixed in with seniors, obviously, that have played at a high level. But it's going to be interesting to see how some of those teams, like Olmsted Falls, they bounce back nicely after a tough loss to North Ridgeville. They're going to have to really play a flawless game against Avon. How are they going to go at them there? But if some of those teams can get wins, maybe they could jump back into the top 10. But it's going to take a pretty tough effort from those teams, and some solid wins, because their upcoming schedules are not bad. And I think Ridgeville has a pretty favorable schedule now, playing an Avon team, and Olmsted Falls now off the list. So they have some games that are going to be pretty competitive, where they can maybe bounce back into the top 10 here.
Agreed. I'm interested. I mean, North Ridgeville has Elyria and Midview, as you mentioned, away. So they have to travel for those games before they come back and host Berea and Mid-Park. And Berea and Mid-Park is, they got Midview and Avon. Berea and Mid-Park has some tough losses on their schedule.
Yeah.
4-1 Avon Lake, 5-0 Nordonia, and 4-1 Cleveland Heights. Like, those are all very, very good teams. Avon Lake is also making themselves a case here. They have a good chance to build up their resume a little bit more, too, with games against Amherst and Elyria. And then, Olmsted Falls, Ridgeville, and Avon to close out. Lots of computer points on the line there, and lots of opportunities, for Avon Lake to really solidify themselves as the favorite in the Southwestern Conference. And then, obviously, up in the top of our list as well there. Avon is... they're not far and away the best team, and them and Cleveland Heights are pretty close. Avon, they haven't lost a game yet, and they have some good wins. A 4-1 Canton and Kinley, 4-1 North Ridgeville, and the defending state champions in Glenville, which are Division IV in name only. That's a legit team they beat. Glenville can compete against most teams in the state, and they have a victory over them. So, there's going to be a lot of the fun part about this list is that there's a lot more movement that can happen.
Yep.
And for the Greater Cleveland Conference, we see 4 teams up there, as you mentioned. There's going to be some I have a feeling there's going to be some movement going forward with Menor and Medina at the very least. Menor, their losses to Riverside. St. Ignatius has 1 win. I grant you that. Their schedule not very fun. I don't think any team wants to play a schedule Ignatius has, but nonetheless, that's who they play, and they haven't won many games. So that's fair. Riverside's fantastic. They are a very, very good team. They're going to do some damage in the playoffs as well. So definitely looking forward to some movement in the coming weeks as all these teams play each other. So that is what we have for the Power 10 this week. And let me get that off my screen. I think we're good to go there.
Yep.
And I know we were so we can get close to wrapping it up here. I know we had a relatively spirited debate in the pre-call here, trying to figure out where we were going to go next week, which is going to be Friday, where we're going to go on Friday. So whoever wants to take it away, have at it.
Where's Dr. Hoops going? I want to know where Dr. Hoops is going.
Everybody wants to know where Dr. Hoops.
It's always fun to keep a little tracker on Dr. Hoops.
Well, Sean, you guys, even though it's the Greater Cleveland Conference I cover, but I am going to switch it up this week. I'm going back to the Suburban League. I want to see the Barberton Magic against the Highland Hornets. And, Sean, what you said earlier about Barberton, I feel like their defense has been playing really well against the past few weeks. And I feel like they proved themselves against a Kent Roosevelt team who we haven't seen very much here. But I feel like if Barberton's defense can play well against a very good Highland offense with Casey Miser, I feel like Barberton will be the better team. And as far as for Highland, if they come in with Casey Miser and that running game, the Hornets will be there. And you never know. I mean, this is a battle for first place in the Suburban League American Conference with Aurora. Who knows who will come out with this game?
Wow. So
Got a battle in the
Dr. Hoops is
Suburban.
invading my territory. I don't like it, but I'll accept it for this week. Have fun in Highland. Rob, Josh, where are you guys thinking about going? Or are you going out? Or is it maxing and relaxing time for our EVP and our technical director?
No, I had my assignment this past Friday, so I'm coming back into the field. I'm going to be somewhere.
Oh,
Where that is, I don't know yet. So you're going to have to check out our website and our X page, so you could actually get a full list of our week 6 featured games and assignments. So that'll be coming now. Granted, I'm a day off here, so usually I'm locked down, ready to go on Sunday nights. But since we started the show, a day early than usual, I'm a little behind. So that's my bad.
I'm still recovering from Saturday night too, Josh. It's fine.
Yeah, and
IBT?
Well, you know what? I believe I am going to go out. I think we decided. Okay. Well, I think did we decide on which game? I don't know if we talked about which game yet. So I think
I don't know either, Rob. I mean,
we were kind of juggling some games around. So like I said, we'll post it on the website just to make sure.
There we go.
All right.
So you have to stay tuned, but go to sportsontappodcast.com.
Exactly.
And
hype alert.
I mean, look, I don't cherish this. I don't relish this. But, guys, if you want to know where Josh and Rob are going, he mentioned it in his little drop there. You got to follow us on Twitter, X, whatever you call it, Instagram, Threads, YouTube, MySpace, if there's still a MySpace, Friendster, if that's still up and running. I think Facebook is still there. I'm not 100% sure. But, guys, I'm going to continue the Sean Duffy road trip that was to Barberton last week. I'm going to do something I've never done in the history of this podcast. Myself is going to be taking me, your Dr. Hype, Professor Hype, to Revere. I want to see the Minutemen and the Blue Devils lock horns in a Suburban League at American Conference matchup. I think this is going to be a really good matchup. I think it's going to be interesting because Talmadge has been in games all year. They've come out on the wrong side of these games, but they've been in games. They're not an easy out. And I think Revere's running game with Zachy O, as we renamed him, because none of us can really know if we're pronouncing that name correctly. I'm going to Revere for 2 reasons. One, I want to see that game, and 2, I wanted to see how they pronounce that name so I don't screw it up week 6 through wherever they go. So it's a double thing. But guys, what I'm saying is, I know it's Sunday night. We got the blues, right? We got the Sunday blues. All of us got to go back to work. But you know what brings me joy? Not the fact that the Browns are going to Pittsburgh and they're going to do a business trip and they're going to take care of some business. They're going to make Kenny Pickett look like Kenny Pickett should. Not that your boy, Professor Hype, had a really good fantasy day. And we're not going to talk too much about that because I think it makes some of these people that listen and follow us a little bit uncomfortable when Professor Hype has a good fantasy day. It's usually not great for everybody else. I get that.
I know Josh Jeffy had a pretty good day. He might lead the league in points.
I don't need to talk about it though, Rob.
That's a very good point.
That's true. You've actually been there.
Okay. But again, I like this because we got to talk high school football and we got to talk on a Sunday night, and it's nice to have that to look forward to. So guys, if you want to know where Rob and Josh are going, if you want to know about where we are going to be, make sure you're following us on our socials. Make sure that you're subscribing to our YouTube channel so you can watch a show like this, all of our shows going forward. And guess what? Guess what, folks? We are not too far off from the beginning of hockey season. That's right. I'm not even. We're halfway through high school football, and we're already talking high school hockey. And I got news for you. High school hockey is going to be off the chain this year. We are going to be everywhere. It's going to be an SOT craziness. So why are you waiting? Why aren't you part of the Army? Why aren't you part of the SOT Army? Because that's what we need. We need support. Make sure if we are screwing up your names, and I know we are doing that. Trust me. I know that. I am not insensitive to that. You got to be dropping us a line at sportsontap@gmail.com. Make sure you give us the stats. Give us if you got a player you want to shout out, we will do that. But you got to interact with us because we're just going to continue going this, and we are not all that smart. Listen, I'm the dumbest guy on this show. Trust me, I am. By a long shot. It's not even fair. But you know what? I'm smart enough to know that I need to follow SOT on YouTube, on the socials, on the website. Wherever we are, that's where you need to be. Guys, it's week 6. Let's get serious about playoffs. Let's start talking playoffs. And let's look forward to hockey. It's gonna be fun.
Hey, I will say we have a comment on Twitter, and it's from the Olmsted Falls side. They said, by the way, it's Owen Singleton. That was his first varsity start.
Whoa!
Our player of the week.
Player of the week. I mean,
man, he's 1 for 1.
Wow! Oh my God, man! He better play the lottery. That's all I can say. And Noah, are you
out of age?
He's
his parents.
Child, Rob. Again, I mean,
his parents can. But Noah, are you starting tomorrow for the Brownies or?
Yeah, Noah's got to head back to Pittsburgh. He's starting.
I know Cooper's out tomorrow. So, are you starting in his place?
I might, but you never know how Donovan Peoples-Jones and I mean, this is Cedric Tillman's time right now.
No, this is Dr. Hoops. This is Dr. Hoops time, man.
Yeah.
Yo time. Coach Stefanski, give him a call. He's a free agent. Give him a call.
Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun tomorrow.
All right. Well, as Sean mentioned, I can't really follow that up with anything coherent, so just get in and out as soon as we can. We make sure you find out again. Follow us on X, Twitter at SOT Podcast. Check out the website sportsontapodcast.com to find out where all of our games are going to be this week. Quite honestly, this is a great problem for us to have. It's tough for us to pick some games here because we'll be covering a lot of teams, and we obviously want to reward the teams that have played their way to get it. And we're also going to go off the beaten path a little bit as Sean has done a few times with us here. So make sure again find out where we are going to be at this week on Twitter/X, again at SOT Podcast. You are watching this live on our YouTube channel, Sports on Tap. Again, follow us on Facebook, threads at SOT_podcast. Any sort of comments, questions, pronunciations, email us at sportsontapodcast@gmail.com. One more time, Rob will go through the sponsors again. I'll just mention them again real quick. Ray Felton State Farm Insurance, RRT Productions, GV Art and Design, and hand-built leather-made goods. Thank you very much for your sponsorship of our show. For everyone, stick around a little bit and get some more information about those. For Rob Troutman, Josh Jeffy, Noah Jacobson, and Sean Duffy, you are watching Sports on Tap. This is the Sports on Tap High School Football Show presented by Ray Felton State Farm Insurance. Go Browns, and we'll see you on the other side.
Sports on Tap's high school football coverage is on every Monday night at 7:30 p.m. Watch live on YouTube and make sure to subscribe. Sports on Tap's high school football coverage is presented by Raymond Felton State Farm.
With the auto insurance market constantly changing, call a professional that will put your needs first. Ray Felton State Farm is a team of licensed professionals that will assess your risk, explain coverage in detail, and assure you understand what would happen if you ever found yourself in a claim situation. You can visit rayfelton.com or call their office at 234-284-2996 for a free quote on your home, auto, renters, and life insurance needs.
Whether you're hosting a corporate event, wedding, conference, concert, or any other special gathering, our comprehensive range of services will exceed your expectations and elevate your event to new heights. RRT Productions. We shoot, we edit, you win. Visit our website at www.rrt-productions.com.
Hand-and-built leather goods. Leather goods built for life. Made by hand in the USA, all goods are made with veg-tanned leather. Some of the best quality around and made by a U.S. veteran. Check out their website, www.handbuiltleather.com. GV Art and Design is a creative boutique specializing in original artwork, design, and apparel. With 4 locations in Lakewood, Avon, Willoughby, and Kent, you can visit their store and check out their collections, including Cleveland sports teams, Ohio colleges, and much more. Use the code ONTAP10 for 10% off your order. GV Art and Design, original and one of a kind. On these shows, I mean, we've been getting, almost